it owns derivatives, it owns things that reflect the price of XRP. So the purpose of the fund is to give people as close as we can double price exposure to XRP.
This episode is brought to you by iTrust Capital. iTrust Capital gives you a great alternative for buying, selling, and custodying your crypto assets. They allow you to set up a self-directed IRA, which gives you huge tax advantages. You can even roll over your 401k to this platform. And they not only offer crypto, they also offer gold and silver. And as mentioned, the custody gives you another very safe alternative. So many of you know about self-custody. That's a great option, but you can also use iTrust Capital's premium custody accounts, also known as PCA. So with the rise of crypto scams and phishing attacks, a lot of retail investors are losing their shirts. I mean, let's be honest, right? It sucks to hear that exchanges are getting hacked. Well, iTrust Capital does things a bit different here. They use Fortis Bank as their qualified custodian. So they're actually using a bank here, and they have partnerships with Coinbase, Prime, Fidelity, and Fireblocks. They are fully US based, and their client experience team offers direct phone support. So not many platforms offer this. This is very unique to iTrust Capital. And folks, most recently, we heard from President Trump that the United States is looking to unlock 401ks to be able to participate in crypto. Well, you can get ahead of the curve by using iTrust Capital and getting started in that process. And folks, I'm a user of the platform. I have an account with them. If you sign up with my link, which is itrustcapital.com/thinkingcrypto, you can get an exclusive $100 funding bonus. So go learn about this great, safe, and awesome way to buy, sell, and custody your crypto. A great alternative, once again, with tax advantages and a lot of safety, very safe compared to many exchanges. And all the links will be in the description. Check it out. Hey folks, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and joining me is Sal Gilbertie, who is the CEO of Teucrium Trading. Sal, great to have you on.
Great to be here, Tony. Thank you.
Sal, I'm excited to speak with you and learn about all the great ETF products that you folks have in the market, as well as the most recent being XRP. And a lot of crypto enthusiasts are curious about that. But let's kick it off with your background. Tell us about yourself and your professional background.
Sure. I started a very long time ago trading in a company called Cargill, and just a commodities guy. That's what I like to do. Been commodities my whole life, mostly energy and ags. And when crypto came along, I was kind of dragged kicking and screaming into it. Shouldn't have been, thought it was a great idea, but keeping something on a thumb drive back in the day with, a 26 alphanumeric code, I'm just going to lose it. That's how I looked at it. So I didn't get in as early as I should have when people said, but I love the concept. I'm a big BTC guy. Really like Bitcoin. I think, it is digital gold. And I really like XRP. I guess you could say I'm part of the XRP army. I believe in it. I believe in Ripple and what they're doing. And that's how we got here.
And your company, tell us a bit about it and the type of ETFs you've offered before crypto.
Sure. And again, I was a commodity, so I was an energy trader, starting for Cargill, world's largest agricultural company, privately held. And so I know energy and ags. Those are my areas of expertise. I launched Teucrium when I found out what an ETF was, and I found out there were energy ETFs that were, I thought, less than efficient for certain investment purposes. And I couldn't believe there were no agricultural ETFs. I mean, everybody, we always say the last thing people will do is let themselves, their families, or their animals go cold or hungry. So energy and food are the two most important commodities there are. And we opened ETFs for big agricultural products, and we opened ETFs for energy. But you have to be first in the ETF world, which I think we've proven with our double XRP fund. And so it's very, very important that you're first. There was no corn ETF, so we opened a corn ETF. There was no
Wow.
wheat, soybean, or sugar ETFs. We did all that.
Wow.
And then we opened an oil ETF, which I think was third or fourth to market, and a natural gas ETF, which was third or fourth to market. And no one cared. They're third or fourth to market. We closed them after 2.5 years. So here we are. We are known for agriculture and some crypto.
That's incredible because, to your point, the basic necessities that we need, right? Food, shelter, clothing, and all that, right? And corn and wheat, you wouldn't think, oh, hey, I can invest in that industry, but you guys created these incredible products. And of course, folks can access it through their retirement account or just simply investing on their respective trading platform.
That's right. They're all, ETFs trade like a stock. They trade on a trading platform. And so, they're available on almost every platform. On all the e-platforms have them automatically. And then the bigger wirehouses, they have some restrictions because our funds hold derivatives inside of them. And so, the conservative wirehouse, you have to ask. You can't just trade it. But, anybody listening to this podcast or this show, however you transmit it, they're going to be able to trade our products, no problem.
Mm. Now, obviously, your pedigree in ETFs and in the agriculture and energy space and so forth. Um, what clicked for you with crypto to say, let me create products around this, even though, like you said, you're a fan of Bitcoin XRP, but what made you make that next step? And I think it's important for folks to understand that story because this asset class is still young and it's maturing a bit.
Sure. And I was not a crypto guy in terms of buying crypto itself, but I understood the concept and loved it. And then when Bitcoin futures came out, again, I'm a derivatives person. So I traded physical commodities and derivatives around them. And then primarily later on in my career, derivatives themselves. So we're trading swaps and options and futures, complicated financial products that you could use for hedging and investing purposes. And so when Bitcoin futures came out, we immediately filed for a Bitcoin futures ETF. I love the concept of Bitcoin and the fact that futures were out there, a regulated market. We filed. The SEC asked everyone, a lot of other people filed too, to withdraw those filings. They weren't really sure about crypto. And the excuse they used was that there was not enough liquidity in the futures market yet. It was too small futures market. So, all right, when the government asks you to do something, you pretty much do it. And we withdrew along with a lot of other ETF issuers. But because we're derivatives people, we're just looking at derivatives. We monitored those futures and it came to a point where we said the time is now. Given the SEC said they weren't liquid enough, we know they're liquid enough now. We're going to refile. And we did. We refiled in April of whatever year it was. But in those days, you had to file under, it's complicated, but in the structure we filed under 33 Act, it's a 270-day approval time. In the 40 Act, which is a mutual fund type structure, it's a 75-day approval time, and it's basically automatic. And everyone thought you had to file under the 33 Act. We did that in April. And in August of that same year, Gary Gensler, no one's friend, basically changed the rules midstream and said you could file under 40 Act. And of course, a lot of other companies whose expertise was 40 Act, they just jumped on that. They filed immediately and they got their funds out, their Bitcoin funds out ahead of us, even though we were the very first to file. That little bit, well, very disconcerting, not a little bit disconcerting. That cost us a lot of opportunity cost. But that said, we had filed, we got our type of file, the 33 Act approved. And that was what Grayscale keyed their whole lawsuit against the SEC. If you go look up that lawsuit, Teucrium's filing approval is mentioned there. And literally they won the case because of it. And so that opened up, a lot to the financial crypto world. So that, the crypto ecosystem expanded into the financial world a lot because of that court ruling. And so we were a part of that. So we do have a history, even though we did launch that fund, but we eventually sold it. You have to be first to market. And that was whatever it was, 12th or 14th to market at that time. So we sold it and kept our eye out looking. Not a real Solana or Ethereum guy, but XRP I get. And XRP, the Ripple team I understand the financial system. I understand the banking system to some degree. And I understand, as we all do, when you try to send a wire, it's a hassle. And, in the old days, it was T+3 settlement. We're now at T+1 settlement for a lot of stocks and futures and options. Well, that's still ridiculous.
Yeah.
So anything that speeds up the system, the whole blockchain, um, the Ripple team from their outset have been out there laying the groundwork in the background to change the financial system, primarily through transfer of assets, primarily through replacing hopefully the SWIFT system, which is what wire transfers operate on by and large. And so we just thought, XRP being the token for that. Now there's RLUSD and the whole Ripple ecosystem. But from the beginning, their management has been very focused and very professional at building that out. We think they're one of many, but they're going to win the game. They in terms of, I think, market share and speed, they're going to win the game in the transfer system. And so when the opportunity came up, because we know that we have a crypto-friendly political environment now. We filed immediately for a double XRP, double exposure, because everyone's going to file for XRP. Okay,
Right.
everybody's going to have a spot XRP. You could take your pick, just like you can with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana now, but we didn't want to play in the high volume big boy game where you go up against BlackRock or Fidelity or Van Eck. I mean, come on, we're just Teucrium. We're a little expert at what we do, but we're a small shop. And so we filed for the levered product. That's our area of expertise. Why not? And we did, and I think we got a terrific ticker, double exposure to XRP, double XRP. And we were the first to file because of my experience in trading derivatives. The futures didn't exist yet, so we launched with swaps, and it was a bit of a complicated process. But because offshore markets prior to the Trump administration were very far ahead of us in terms of their attitude and permissiveness with crypto, there were ETFs trading in Switzerland that had XRP in them. So we did a swap based on an ETF trading XRP in Switzerland, and we were the first to launch. And of course, that's everything. When you're first to launch in an ETF, that's everything. We managed to do that. We've since switched over to the futures. We use both Coinbase futures and CME futures, and the liquidity is there. And the growth has been astounding. Quite honestly, it's been astounding. I think. Today, as we record this, we're over $500 million in assets under management in that one fund alone, which for an ETF, I mean, there was an old statistic a few years ago that the top 1% of ETFs got 25 million in their first year. Well, this fund is barely 15 weeks old, and it's at $500 million. There was pent up demand. The XRP army is an army, and the traders seeking volatility. This is a very sophisticated, very dangerous product, if you will. It is for aggressive, sophisticated traders, and it's out there. There was a demand, and we filled it.
So I know there's going to be a big question from a lot of folks watching, listening. What do you mean by double? Because if I can buy XRP, right, and even if buy an XRP ETF, why is yours double? Explain that maybe in layman's terms for the folks who may not.
Sure. It employs leverage. So every dollar you put in that fund, it will do its best to buy $2 worth of XRP. So understand, the fund doesn't own XRP. It owns derivatives. It owns things that reflect the price of XRP. So the purpose of the fund is to give people, as close as we can, double price exposure to XRP, price exposure. So you don't own 2 XRP when you put the money in to buy one. You simply have the exposure of 2. Now, it's complicated in that it employs leverage, and that's in itself a concept many people don't understand. If you put $1 in and the asset, whatever it may be, goes down by 50 cents, you lose your whole dollar. Okay, because it's levered. So you control, it's like real estate, okay? When you borrow with a mortgage, if the price of the asset doesn't have to go to zero for you to go underwater on your mortgage. It's the same way. And so people need to be very careful with that. The other thing is the nature of these products, in order to manage them properly, you reset them daily. So it gives you the price exposure for a single day
Wow.
of as close to twice the XRP price movement as you can. And again, there are fees and expenses that can eat away at that. And you're not allowed to go over by law. The regulations state very clearly we cannot go to, 201%. We can only be at 200%. So we try to get as close to that as we can for the investor. And again, fees and expenses can eat into that a little bit. But the point is, it's for one day. And so people need to understand this. This is very important. If XRP goes up the day you buy it, you should get 200% price exposure or close to it, less fees and expenses. Okay. And this little static that's around these things. The next day, if it goes sideways or down, you will lose. Okay. So if you bought 2XRP and it went up one day, you would make 2XRP. Okay. If the next day it went sideways, you just have your XRP. You didn't lose anything. In this fund, in any leverage fund, not unique to this fund, we didn't invent the structure, you will lose. You will lose because of daily reset. It's math, it's complicated math, but you only make money in this fund if it continues going up every single day. As it goes sideways to down, your losses can be quite dramatic. And so it is a very dangerous, very sophisticated product.
So how does one manage that, on a daily? It's just maybe the opening and closing at the end of the day. And you have to really be monitoring this, right?
Correct. You have to really be monitoring. And there are a lot of people we hear from who buy it and hold it. Okay. That is not what the product is built for. That may or may not work out for you. These all 2X products. Again, we didn't invent the structure. There are a lot of 2X products out there on a lot of different assets. They are meant, basically to be traded for that day. And you either get it right or you don't. They're very, very dangerous because if XRP were to go down 50% in one day, the fund goes to zero. People have to understand that.
Rookie question. So you mentioned this is levered, and if the price appreciates and continues going up, obviously you're making money. Do you flip that when, let's say, a bear market, let's say we're in a downtrend, to where it's shorting? Or that's it. It won't.
No, because it's the fund is meant to just give you 2 times the exposure. That's its job. And so if it goes up and down on a 2X basis. Now, we can take actions to mitigate that, but right now that's not the purpose of the fund. That's not the purpose of the fund at all. The purpose of the fund is to give someone 2 times exposure, up or down. Up or down. It's just the way they work. Now, these are hard to short. They do have put options on them. They have options, a very active options market around it. So people can go long or short the fund using options. It's difficult to borrow to go short. You have to be a really sophisticated trader to do that. Probably most people listening to this will not have the ability to do it. And I mean, let's face it, most people buy it because they think XRP is going up and they want to juice their returns. That's why people buy it.
Right. So are you seeing a lot of demand from institutional investors who are qualified mostly to handle these things?
So as an ETF issuer, we don't actually sell the shares directly. Market makers make markets on the New York Stock Exchange. People buy and sell on the New York Stock Exchange from them. And when they sell a certain number of shares, then they come to us and do what's called a creation basket, and we sell them the shares. And so we actually don't know who's buying it as an issuer. We can't see that. I would think the interest in this thing, I mean, it's traded almost $250 million notional value today. And so I've got to think that there are all kinds of players in there, from retail, sophisticated retail, to, maybe hedge funds and sophisticated institutions.
So in reality, folks can still hold let's say their long-term whole XRP bags, or, maybe it's cyclical, the every 4-year cycle, but also get exposure to this ETF if they're sophisticated enough to try to get more gains.
That's exactly right. That's why it's there. It's there for people who want to use a very levered, dangerous, volatile product. There's opportunity and volatility, and that's what this is built for people. There's also great danger. I can't emphasize that enough. But a lot of people are willing to take that risk.
Yeah, and I think if you're, I often tell people like you can use leverage in these things, but make sure you're educated about it, right? As long as you know what you're doing, you're not just blindly going in. Oh, I'm just gonna,
Correct,
yeah,
correct. And if you read the prospectus, there's enough explanation in there and about the dangers of the product and the unique characteristics of the product. I mean, technically everybody's supposed to read the prospectus before they trade it. Unfortunately, I don't think people do. I think even if they do, they may not, understand it. People who are capable should trade this thing. People who aren't capable or have doubts should probably stay away from it and stick with their unlevered XRP product of choice.
sure. Are there plans to build products like these for other crypto assets as you go down that list, maybe the top 10, 15 liquid assets?
People keep asking us that internally and externally. We may come out, we're a pretty creative firm. We come out with different things. Not going to reveal any specific plans right now. And it's actually when you make public filings, you have to be careful what you say because
Sure.
you can't pre-sell. There's a lot of very strict rules around that in the securities laws. But Teucrium will be coming out with other products. They'll be unique. What they'll be specifically, I'm not going to say right now.
Mm. And I don't know if this makes sense. And you may have answered this question earlier because going up against the big players like BlackRock, it may not make sense. But are you looking at the spot market at all?
We watch the spot market, we do, but it's not relevant to us. What's relevant to us is futures, and so we can comment on it. We watch it to see if we believe there may be increased volatility, decreased volatility. But honestly, it doesn't make any difference to us. We manage the fund as best we can to the objective of the fund, and that's what our job is. Yeah.
Interesting. Um, it's fascinating all of these new financial products are being built around the crypto asset class. And you mentioned earlier how your initial filing was so critical in Grayscale's lawsuit against the SEC, winning that, and then you had this explosion in the crypto ETF market. Looking back, are you like, wow, we were part of that. We were a small firm, but we were part of that and helping to get this boom. So
Yeah, in that respect, it feels good. We helped a nascent industry get on its feet. That's good. We didn't make any money off it. It probably cost us money to go through the whole process because of the rule change by Gary Gensler in the midstream of things. So, we're not very happy about that. But hey, we're here to have fun and do different things, and that's what we did. So objective achieved.
absolutely. Now, obviously, you kind of have your swim lanes. You mentioned agriculture and energy and things like that, and you got some crypto. Eventually, there's going to be tokenized assets on the blockchain, tokenized real estate. They're going to put stocks and much more commodities as well, right?
Sure.
Are you, and you may not be able to give all the details yet, but are you looking at that aspect to be early as well?
We are, and we are being approached. We have what's called a white label business, where if people have an ETF idea, they come to us and we'll help them launch it with our expertise. And it's not our ETF, it's theirs. We do the background work, and the number of people looking at just basically tokenizing whatever you want to tokenize. It's all coming. There's no doubt. But it's like now you pick and choose. A lot of people say, "Where's your coffee ETF?" Well, there isn't one. It's hard enough to get people to buy wheat and corn sometimes.
Sure.
And so, it costs to launch a fund is a six-figure endeavor that takes, basically 4 months to a year, depending on the product that you're trying to put in and what kind of package you're allowed to put it into. So, and then once you launch it, you've got to allocate generally $250,000 a year, give or take. If nobody buys it, you want to keep it out there in case somebody does buy it for at least a couple of years. So it's a large financial investment. Your time and treasure is being allocated to all these products. So, we hear hundreds of products over the course of a year, product ideas. Small handful of them are going to come to fruition just because of the risk involved, the time and money involved in trying to put them out there. And then you don't know if people will buy them.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I would love to get your perspective on the future markets, given your pedigree. You have a plethora of experience, obviously, right, with ETFs and these different markets. we're seeing everybody, the puck is heading towards a 24/7 trading market because of the tokenized aspect, right? Putting these things on the blockchain and opening them up to more markets around the world. How do you think that changes what you do and even investing in general? Are a lot of firms going to get hurt or will they adapt to that?
I think firms both, okay? I think the firms that adapt will live and thrive, and the firms that don't adapt are going to be hurt. There's no question about it.
Mm. Um, does it make your job, you think it might make your job harder, given that it'll have the 24/7 aspect and maybe you'll have to use things like AI to help monitor all these things?
Um, I think it's going to make our job easier.
Mm.
I do. I think it's going to make everybody's job easier. It's a matter of adapting. That's what you do to win. That's what's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, because I'm very fascinated by that and what the world's going to look like. It's going to drive some of us nuts being up at 3 a.m. because the markets are trading 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the fear. The fear is
Yeah.
that nobody ever shuts off.
Right.
There's a settlement time for a reason. And for everybody to make their books. I mean, just simple accounting and for people to keep track of what's real and what's not and to quarter things like you've got to have a closing time. You do have to have um, some semblance of order. And I think, the financial industry will make sure that happens. But yeah, 24/7, I mean, right now, crypto trades all weekend long and the stock market's closed. So yeah, it's fun, but it
Yeah,
will be a brave new world for sure.
for sure. What are your thoughts on, how crypto has changed here in the United States? Obviously, you faced some headwinds with Gary Gensler and, well, the entire industry did. But we just had the Genius Act signed into law, the stablecoin bill. The market structure should be signed in September. What are your thoughts on how things have changed?
I mean, the change has been 180 in a positive direction. It's wonderful. We can't say enough good things about it. We're very optimistic. So it's all good. We'll let it evolve, but it's all going to be good stuff.
Hmm. I don't know if this makes sense. Are you planning to do anything on the stablecoin front, or it doesn't make sense for your business?
That's one of the greatest businesses. Some guy that does PE, I forget his name. He said it's one of the greatest businesses he's ever seen.
Hmm.
Because basically you invest in a company that takes other people's money and buys T-bills and keeps the interest. So yeah, I think that we don't have plans to open our own stable coin. It's not necessary. What are we going to do with it? I mean, literally, that's just a money grab. So we're not going to participate in that. But I think that, the Ripple Ledger and the RLUSD, I think that's going to grow and grow and grow, as are others. And so, I mean, stable coins are here to stay. They're the greatest thing to happen to the treasury bill markets, in modern history.
Yeah.
So you're going to have buyers for T-bills. They're wonderful. We don't have plans to launch one, no, but they're good.
Maybe at some point you may integrate, well, as payment infrastructure is updated to stablecoins, at some point we're all going to be using stablecoins with
We
them.
can't wait. We
Yeah.
can't wait to wait for settlements and things like that. We're really really busy, and in researching that and in signing with organizations, our support organizations that will go on to the blockchain and different ledgers and make things instantaneous. Yeah, we can't wait for that.
Hmm. What's on your roadmap that you can share?
Um, Not much. More innovative, creative products will come, but again, being a issuer of publicly traded things, we have to be careful what we say.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Sal, I love what you guys are doing. I love the products, and I would love to have you back on as you launch future crypto products, if you do. I know you can't say much there, but it's exciting, and I congrats on the growth of XXRP, and I'm sure a lot of people are eager to see how this matures and grows. But thank you so much for joining me, and I got some wrap-up questions here for you. First,
sure.
if you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be?
Oh my goodness. Probably something to do with truth and absolute truths. There are truths. God exists, and we live on the earth, and we need to take care of it. Things like that. There's good and evil, and people need to understand it, know how to navigate in there. So, yeah,
Rapid fire questions. Favorite food?
sure. Favorite food?
Hmm.
Pie. Any kind of fruit pie. It's its own food group. Apple pie, cherry pie, blueberry pie. Pie. I love pie.
Favorite musician or band?
Oh, go with Waylon Jennings. I'll go way back. Waylon Jennings.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I'm going to go with In the Heat of the Night.
Hmm. Favorite book?
Favorite book? The Brothers Karamazov by far.
And when you're not working at Teucrium, what are you doing for fun?
Generally fishing, farming, splitting wood, something outside, something outdoors.
Very nice. Sal, thank you so much for joining me. And like I said, we'd love to have you back on in the future as new products are rolled out on your front, but appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, Tony. Always a pleasure.